Quinn is an interesting tower. She's often overlooked nowadays with other ranged towers being used over her. Is she really as bad? Is she perhaps a usable tower? Quinn is a ranged hero that costs 370 coins in the shop with no map prerequisite. She has basic stats with no actual gimmick besides an ability at max level. Level 1 Quinn costs 150 mana, does 7 damage every 3.3 seconds and has 7 range. She's actually a decent level 1 hero if you want to spam, doing decently high damage for a level 1 hero. You can use her as an alright support in the very early game. There's one big issue however, and that is her placement box. It's the same fat size as Oddport, Fracture and Scientist, which makes her a lot less reliable on smaller maps, and when in uncoordinated matches leads to griefing. Level 2 Quinn costs 1,350 mana, does 16 damage every 3.2 seconds and has 10 range. She also gains detection like most towers do. Level 3 Quinn costs 3,600 mana, does 40 damage every 3 seconds and has a range of 15. Her stats are so basic it's pretty much reading and writing this for me. Level 4 Quinn costs 5,600 mana and doubles her damage to 80 over 2.8 seconds over a range of 16 units. Finally, level 5 Quinn costs 7,000 mana and increases her damage to 120 over 2.8 seconds with a huge range of 23. At this level, she unlocks an ability called Spore Field. When activated, every enemy in her range will receive a 20% slowness debuff, similar to Bite's slowdown. This ability has a 10-second duration and a 70-second global cooldown. This ability has no weaknesses, unlike Bite. Due to a large footprint, underwhelming stats, especially compared to her cost, you really need to use her to her max potential for her to be somewhat viable without her ability, and even then Voka exists. Voka is cheaper, has a smaller footprint and does splash damage. Level 2 Voka even has a little utility to chip down stronger enemies in the early game. Voka is just better overall. Quinn only has a very slight edge when it comes to bosses, but even then, is it really worth it? And it implies Quinn is constantly attacking the boss, when in practice, she has to deal with the enemies in front first. Quinn's ability is alright, and it leads to Quinn playing more of a supportive role rather than an attacking role. The best way to use it is to pair it with Spectre ability to squeeze a bit more damage out of your towers. The biggest issue with the slowdown is that you can't stack or chain it due to the global cooldown, so there isn't really much of a reason for multiple people to bring Quinn, as she's pretty bad by herself. If you want to bring Quinn, only one person should bring her. Quinn is still nice to have around because of the support, but she's way too situational to consider bringing most of the time, and it results in her not being as meta as she sounds on paper. Is it really worth the fat footprint, mid damage, terrible price, lack of area damage for the 20% slow every minute? She borders the line between genuine support and placebo. The only synergy I can think of is that Bite and Stella's slow are able to stack with Quinn, which is nice. Here come one of my personal strats. Pairing Vault with Quinn is a strat I've thought of. Vault's range can pair nicely with Quinn's weakness of being really weak towards groups of enemies. With Vault Point Micro, you're able to cast another Quinn slowdown alongside a new set of Vault Points. It's a neat synergy I've thought of. Quinn is overall way too situational, and her support generally comes off more as a placebo rather than a legitimate option like Bite. If you want sniper towers, you'd be better off bringing Voka or Haze. A change for Quinn would be to buff the slowdown ability, remove the global cooldown and make the slowdown a nicer 25%. The ability to chain Quinn's slow would be a game changer. Being the same cost as a crucifix, you could have a permanent 25% slowdown on a wave or boss. As for her base stats, I'm just going to follow the same route everyone takes by changing Quinn's stats, so she fires slower and does a lot more damage. So she still has the same weakness, but just doesn't have mid damage. Another very small thing, but I think it would be neat, is if the slow effect also did a small amount of damage, comparable to a level 3 Dumpster Child or a level 3 Maitake. It would add a little to Quinn's DPS, but also get rid of smaller enemies that may get in the way and do chip damage to stronger enemies in front of the boss, and make the ability synergize with her even better. I'd generally rate Quinn a very mid-B tier, as her support capabilities are somewhat noteworthy, but she still isn't good enough to be actually usable anywhere else. If it wasn't for the ability, I'd rate her a very low B tier, similar to Slime King. Quinn is just a really weird tower, and her being perfectly in the middle of B tier is fitting. She's right beside every other basic tower and gets a passing grade on usability. This was a pretty short video as Quinn is very basic. She's usable, but that doesn't make her good.